Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 697, and today's date is June 20th, 2015, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief. Now, before I begin, I just want to thank those people who donated to the X22report.com site. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. I am very grateful for the donations. Thank you. Let's get into the economic collapse news. Now, Greece is on the verge of a bank holiday. And we see the ECB, they have agreed to lift the ELA cap by about 1.8 billion euros. And this is far less than the Greek banking officials have requested, and probably just barely enough to cover the withdrawals that everyone is making at this time. And we see ATM lines right now are forming. People are coming, taking their money out because they understand that they're going to be Cyprus very soon. And they rather have the money than have the banks have the money. So this is why we're seeing billions of dollars being withdrawn from the Greek banks. And again, we've heard from sources that either this weekend or next weekend, something is definitely going to happen with a bank holiday. They're going to implement capital controls, and we see this on the horizon. Now, we understand that Putin has made a deal with Greece. They signed the agreement. It's a 2 billion euro deal. And he is saying that this now allows Greece to make the payments to the Eurozone. If the EU wants Greece to pay its debt, then it should be interested in the Greek economy, Putin said. The EU should be applauding us. What's bad about creating new jobs in Greece? Nothing's bad about it. It's just that the central banks, this is not what they do. Debt is their product. If you're not in debt, they don't make money. This is why they like the austerity. This is why they want the countries to continually take on debt. Because if everyone was working and the economies were doing well, these countries would not have the debt they have. And if they had a balanced budget, it would be even worse. They wouldn't be making their money. And the central bankers love to place these countries into debt, because what do they really do? They create this money out of thin air. They loan it to a country, and then they steal the real resources from the country. And this is what we are seeing. And we understand that Greece has been invited to join the BRICS system. And the BRICS New Development Bank will be launched at the first session of its Board of Governors in Moscow, July 7th. The New Development Bank will provide a financing alternative to the World Bank. And this will allow the emerging economies to have a say in what's going on. Because you have to remember, back in 2010, the U.S. promised that they would give more voting rights to the emerging economies, and the United States actually went back on their word. And they're keeping all the voting rights in the IMF. And this is why the emerging economies decided to get together and put together this bank to rival the IMF. And this is what we are seeing right now. And we understand that the U.S. government central bankers, they are continually pushing the TPP, the TTIP, the other trade agreements. And what's very interesting is that the people in Europe, they understand that this is not good for them. They're protesting out there. They're telling people, this is not going to benefit the people. Here in the United States, those who are awake realize that this is not going to benefit the people. It is going to benefit the corporation, the banks. And this is why they're pushing it so hard. This is why it's a secret. But there was a poll done in Canada, and the majority of Canadians don't know that their government is negotiating with 11 other countries in one of the biggest international free trade deals known as the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And this is very interesting that they really don't understand what's going on, because a lot of the countries, the people do know what's going on. And I would have to say this is probably the same here in the United States. I would say about 75% of the people here in the U.S. really don't know what the TPP is, or the TTIP, or the other trade agreements, and most of them don't care because they're too busy doing other things and worrying about other things than worrying about what's really going on in this country. And this is what we are seeing. Now, I'm not saying it's everyone, but those people who are awake are following this along. Those people who are believing the corporate media and the president, who say this is to benefit the people, this is for you, they have no idea what it's really about. Now, out in Ukraine, things are really ramping up there. We see the Ukraine Security Service has frozen about 250 ATMs across Donetsk and Lugansk, so people cannot withdraw their money. The security service said that the ATMs have been blocked as their owners pay taxes to the DPR and the LPR. So people right now cannot take out money in those areas. And we see the IMF in Ukraine pledges to support Ukraine, even if no agreement with creditors are on time. It makes no difference. We will continually put Ukraine into debt. And of course, they're taking orders from the U.S. government central bankers to keep Ukraine chugging along here. They don't want them to default. They want to make sure they can get this war started. So they're continually putting them into debt, even though the economy is completely failing. Their currency is declining. GDP is in double negative digits at this time, and it is not getting better. But we see the U.S. State Department is continuing with the propaganda. They're saying that it's very difficult to achieve a political solution in Ukraine because there are thousands of Russian forces inside the country. And Kirby spoke after Putin called on the United States and other Western powers to put pressure on Kiev to resolve the conflict in East Ukraine. Because right now, Kiev is continually violating the Minsk II agreement. Kiev is supposed to abide by a lot of the steps, and they haven't. There's no penalties. There's nothing with Kiev because, as we know, the United States government, the central bankers, they support them. They want war. They want the southeastern section back. They want Crimea back. And this is why they really don't care about the Minsk II agreement. Actually, it's an illusion showing Kiev is following along with the Minsk II agreement, but they're really not. They're just out there putting out propaganda saying, yes, we agree with the Minsk II, yes. And it seems that every time they're supposed to do something, they actually don't. We see Ukraine is upgrading the AN-26 aircraft for combat operations in Donbass. A total of 14 aircraft will be modernized, and they'll be ready and put into service. The AN-26 will in particular be protected against shelling from portable surface-to-air missile systems, and they have increased the pace of work related to these planes to go after the terrorists in the southeastern region. And what they're saying is they're getting ready to go after the people in the southeastern region. And we see right now they are building up their armed forces. They're improving their military assets. And they're getting ready to make a major offensive in the southeastern area. We see John McCain right now, and he's leading a Senate delegation in Ukraine. He is calling for lethal weapons to be delivered to Ukraine. He wants them delivered. He believes that the people there need the support of the United States to go after the people in the southeastern region because they are terrorists. No, they are the people who object to the puppet government. John McCain says Ukraine will be able to depend on the United States to supply gas to Ukraine so they can come off of Russia completely. So he's saying within the next 2 years, they will completely be independent of Russia. And he's saying that Europe will be completely independent of Russia. I don't see that happening right now. We see the Turkish Stream being built. We see Russia has made a deal with Germany to go across the Baltic Sea to supply Germany with gas. So I don't see this actually happening. Now, I just want to touch upon this Charleston shooting. And right now they're out there talking about Charleston shooting, and they're saying it's an act of domestic terrorism. So they're ginning this up right now, saying that this is a terrorist type of an attack. But what's very interesting about all of this, and all of a sudden we see all this information coming out about Dylann Roof, and the FBI, of course, is involved, because we know when the FBI is involved, they have these patsies. Again, Dylann was arrested before. He was on some type of medication. He might have made a deal with the FBI in some way, somehow, or they were using him in a certain way and continually fed him information. But the FBI is investigating a website that appears to contain a manifesto by Dylann Roof. Now, first of all, I went to the website, and the website is called Last Rhodesian, and what's very interesting about this is I did a couple of checks here, and the domain was created on February 9th, 2015, and it is private. So we don't know who actually created it. And then I used Google, and I wanted to see how many pages were on the website, and it looks like only 2 pages were crawled. The home page and the text document, which is his manifesto, which allegedly is a manifesto, because we really don't know if it was really him that wrote it. How did it get on there? And then I went to the Wayback Machine to see, okay, the domain was created on February 9th. The Wayback Machine should have snapshots of the website. And what's very interesting is that from February 9th, when the domain was created, that doesn't mean the website was created, there has been nothing until June 20th. 5 snapshots were created of the website on June 20th of this year. Now, the text document, talks about racism, about what he's going to do. Now, of course, there's no name attached to this. It's just a plain text document, very hard to trace where the original came from. And if he is arrested, how did it get on this site? And the question is, there's also photos of him. And again, I have to say, a lot of these photos look staged. Who took the photos? Did he decide to put his camera on a tripod and take photos of himself? Because all of the photos look absolutely staged. And if this website did exist, and it is his website, why did he register it privately? That doesn't make sense for someone who's going to do a public killing. So something doesn't make sense here. And if you believe the story right now of all of this, where was the NSA? I mean, they're looking for terrorists, aren't they? This site was wide open. No encryption. The manifesto was a text document. They didn't pick any of this up. Well, of course they didn't. This is not what they're really looking for. I mean, of course, if you truly believe this is what the NSA is looking for, but we know this is not what they're looking for. And again, this website just appeared. And there's only 2 pages, the front, the home page, and the text document. There's nothing else to it. So all of this really does not make sense. I mean, if you really think about this, this was a kid who's on drugs, prescription drugs to help him, and there's many side effects with this. He was arrested. The FBI stepped in very quickly, knew who he was, came out with his name, picked him up, and now all of a sudden it's a domestic terrorism investigation. And they found his manifesto, how perfectly, on this website. Now, a lot of the news is out there saying that it's his website. It's his. But again, all of it doesn't make sense. His Facebook account was created recently. He has like 2 posts on it. Most of the friends on Facebook are African American. So all of this, when you put this together, is starting to fall apart. It's not making sense once again. It doesn't fit. There are too many gaps. It's too set up. It's too perfect. And when we look closely at all this, we can see this is most likely another stage false flag event to push multiple agendas. 1, a race war, maybe to declare martial law. 2, the gun agenda, to pass new laws, because as soon as this happened, we know the president was out there pushing gun legislation. We know gun legislation is floating around in Congress, more than one bill. And it always seems that these type of shootings happen in an area where they know there's going to be no weapons. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.